So let's get into this. Let's touch quarterfinals really quick, and then we'll talk about these semifinal games. The quarterfinal games were exciting. And by exciting, I mean I liked watching England and France. I thought the rest of the quarterfinals were, not as exciting. I was most shocked by the Brazil-Croatia game, which I know that you and I have gone back and forth on. Maybe I'm just not a huge fan of Croatia. Either way, whatever. I really enjoyed the England-France game, and other games aside, one of the things that I've been really shocked at in this tournament is there have been very few teams who have shown that they can score goals. Okay, so as a U.S. men's soccer fan, one of the biggest things that we get slammed about is we can't score any goals, right? But you looked all through the tournament, the teams who are left, right? France,
only ones that were scoring goals.
France, to an extent, Croatia, right? But especially in the quarterfinals, right? Brazil, France, England, Portugal, Morocco, iffy, Croatia at the time was, right? They were finding ways to go forward and score goals. But I really only felt like Brazil, England, and France were the only three teams in the tournament that were really pouring it on. That when they wanted to turn the gas, they wanted to score some goals. And so as the quarterfinals stood, I was really only concerned with the England-France, and I'm going to stick by the statement as we talk about the semis. I believe that the winner of that game, France-England, was going to win the World Cup. Okay, so now here we are. We'll start with the France game that was today, right? Morocco loses 2-0. They hadn't conceded a goal all tournament. They concede a goal 4 minutes in, right? Obviously, that dramatically affects the plan. What did you see? What did you believe Morocco was hoping to do? And then what did their game plan kind of turn into after they conceded that goal?
I think one of the big issues, and this has certainly been talked about, is the injuries that Morocco had to their back line coming in. It was all four. I think it was all four that had been starting consistently on their back line had some type of injury going into this game today. I think that's part of what facilitated their switch to a back five, because they were thinking like,
more of that
pressure, we're hurt, and we need to give some more support there. So they're worried about Mbappe just running through everybody. So I believe, that they consciously made that switch, anticipating needing some more support back there. But if you look at the way that goal happened, I think it's because the roles of that back five weren't entirely sure what they were supposed to be doing. So when, I don't remember his name, but when the one player stepped forward and was suddenly out of position and opened that hole behind him for Griezmann, it was something we had not seen any kind of breakdown like that from Morocco the whole rest of the tournament.
And it was a bold go of it. I mean, because he was close to winning that ball.
They
but
were the most solid defensive team of this tournament.
Right. And I hadn't seen Morocco make a decision like that defensively, right? Like typically in that scenario, you're running with Griezmann, right? Like the ball's getting played and you're either on your feet and you're just stepping in and winning it, clean pick of that pass, or you're running with your guy. You never see a guy go down like that, right? And he goes down, and you can tell it's like a last-ditch effort. He realizes he's kind of out of position, right? Griezmann goes in with the ball, and then you see the power. I think it was El Yamik was the guy. I think it was. I don't think it was Amrabat. But you saw the power of Mbappe, right? If you go watch the replay, 5 Moroccan defenders, right? So, here's this cluster of dudes right here, and here's the France guy. He's just waiting there, right? So obviously you're going to play the ball to him. But here's where I was blown away, okay? That ball that goes to him is head high, okay? Not only is it head high, it's on its way up. So yes, fantastic finish, right? Give that man all the credit. But Morocco's goalie watches the ball start to bounce up in the air, and he starts to come out. And then he just stands there. And I said, I was in Discord with a whole bunch of people. I was like, what are you doing? Just run out there and grab the ball. He's not going with his head.
I do think
you know what I mean?
Didn't respond
No, he hesitated. As soon as that ball
Yeah.
starts bouncing, if he just keeps going, what is Hernandez going to do? Is he going to head it?
And as
He's not going to head it past you.
but he can't get to it at that point with his head, I don't
Right,
think.
he can't. So
So,
he like did this weird kind of kick, right? And I think if what is it? It's Bono, whatever Bono.
Bruno.
If he just comes out and grabs it, I mean that's like it's not routine, but if he doesn't hesitate on himself,
I
I
agree.
don't even think Hernandez goes for it. I think Hernandez maybe tries to like just head it into him and hope to get a rebound and give it up. And so that and it hurts 4 minutes in, right? To see
Yeah.
that,
Oh
that,
yeah,
that
and it
breakdown
totally disrupts the game plan because, as we said, Morocco's been a really solid defensive team, and their game plan the entire tournament has been solid defense. Don't let anything through. Have some really dangerous wingers. Let's have really disciplined, incisive counterattacks, and score 1, maybe 2 goals a game, and pack it up, and keep them shut out.
right.
And you can't play that way anymore.
Right. Now, that being said, when they conceded that goal, because my prediction for this game was it was going to be 4 or 5 to nothing France. All right. And if you're getting alarmed and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't think Morocco's a great team. He doesn't think that's not what I'm saying. I just thought France is an arm and a leg above every team in this tournament. Right. I think Morocco's a great team. I think they showed it in this game. Right. So thinking that that's my thought, I was expecting this game after that first goal to just get poured out, right? I was expecting Morocco to stretch, right? They were going to have to stretch for it. Mbappe was going to beat him on the transition. And I was surprised because I don't feel like that's what happened. I felt like once that goal got scored, whether it was intentional or not.
Morocco controlled the game.
Morocco controlled the game, correct. And it was tough to tell if France was attempting to play the way. I have to believe France is a good enough team to transition into, we don't need the goal, we're going to kind of pack it in. But there was a whole lot of opportunities for Morocco that led you believe maybe this isn't what France was hoping to do.
I would say that Morocco dictated the game even after that goal. France was still getting chances and getting forward, but we saw throughout the entire game Morocco had more possession than France did, and really, yeah, they earned that possession and don't quite have the quality of individual attacking strength that France does.
Right.
That really was the difference.
It was. And one of the things that is misleading and kind of stinks about the way that the American commentators presented this, and I think maybe one addressed it in a game, is that a lot of the stats that come up throughout the game are painfully misleading. Right? And one that is the most misleading at times can be possession. Right? We've seen games where the United States has had all the possession and we did play really well. And we've seen games where the United States has had all the possession and we played like garbage, right? I thought and really felt like this was a game where not only did Morocco have all the possession, but it was a slight indicator of the way the game was being played. I didn't feel like Morocco had the ball and they failed to break down France's defense and they just tried to knock the ball around. It didn't really go anywhere, right? There were long stretches of time where even though France was choosing to defend, they were defending for their lives, and Morocco was figuring it out. Hakimi and Ziyech were tearing up that side of the field, and there was very little that France could do to deal with it. Now, that being said, there were also stretches of time where France decided to turn on that defensive thing, and when they lost the ball, they fought for it back, and they won the ball back in about, 10 to 15 seconds, and then they just knocked the ball back to their defense, and you felt the game and come back down. But normally when that happens, you get really long stretches of time where the team that wants to possess the ball can keep that heartbeat low and keep the game under control. And credit to Morocco, that didn't happen. Morocco was tenacious. They got the ball back. And then there was really long stretches where you had like that nice thump and feel. And Morocco was moving the ball around and they were hitting a lot of chances. I mean, France had just as many chances that were as close, right? Giroud's rip off the post, right? I mean, it was a great shot. I thought Hugo Lloris had some great saves, right? There was a whole bunch of shots that Morocco could have had, right? The stuff that hits the post and it was such a close game. I felt like
Was for sure.
it was more of a 1-0 game. If I had to try to give a scoreline that was more indicative of what it was, like maybe
Yeah, I think that's true.
1-0 or 2-1 was more of how
Yeah.
the game felt. But I mean, credit to France. I thought we were going to see more Mbappe. I thought Giroud was going to get, but
It definitely was a very close game. It was very well played, and France, that second goal really comes from Morocco's tired because they have been pushing and they've been defending really well and yet still attacking. They're tired. Mbappe has his moment of brilliance where I'm not really even sure what he did, but he got through all those defenders.
I couldn't believe it.
And
When
the
he
ball
called for
popped
the
out.
ball, I was like, why are you playing this guy the ball? He's got 2 guys on him.
Yeah.
And Mbappe was so confident. He's like, give it to me. And then he just goes, boop, boop. And he just tries to curl the shot around with no angle, and it just rolls. And think about that. I mean, imagine being that sub, right? You've been on the field for 15 seconds. You haven't touched
Yeah.
the ball yet, and your first touch is there's an open goal, and all you have to do is pass the ball.
2 yards away from it, yeah.
Right? And he knew it, too. You could see him when he was celebrating. He was like, yeah, that just happened,
Yeah.
right? Like, that just happened. I'm here. Yeah. So, I mean, credit to France. Like, I'm excited to see them in. They have a shot to be the first team to win back-to-back since Brazil, I don't know, however long ago. If you've been watching the
60s,
games,
yeah.
that's all they're talking about. But I thought this game was the polar opposite of the Argentina-Croatia game. The Argentina-Croatia game, my opinion was Croatia had finally run out of gas. They had finally hit the wall, and they had clearly given everything they had to get past Brazil because Argentina controlled the whole game. I don't think Croatia actually had any meaningful possession or scoring opportunities. And I thought that, like,
One.
Right, 1 or 2. But for the first half, it didn't feel like Argentina was like dominating by any stretch, right? I know they got a couple in there, but like it didn't feel like they were dominating. It just felt like they were just playing a nice rhythm. They were doing what they wanted to do. And the thing Argentina didn't do that I'm sure Croatia was hoping they were going to is after they scored that goal, they didn't let up. None of their tactics really changed. They just kept going.
They kept going.
They just kept pouring it on, and it was almost like they knew, right? They'd done their homework. Croatia, like, they had never lost when conceding first. They right? You score against them, they don't care. They just go get a bunch of other goals. So Argentina knew we have to keep the pedal on. We have to keep going, right? A bunch of mistakes that Croatia got players make. They're tired. They're gassed. They're just, mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted, and drained. And I just really felt like I kind of felt confused that this is the game before the World Cup, and it felt like just an absolute rout. 3-0, there's not really any concern in the world. Argentina, kind of just coasting through it and getting it done. What were your thoughts on that game?
I mean, I'd say that's pretty accurate. I do believe, because Croatia went to extra time against Brazil, and played before Brazil, played Japan, right?
Yes.
They went to extra time against Japan and Brazil. And
did they go to penalties in both? They went to penalties in both, right?
Luka Modric is 37, has been playing Real Madrid's midfield, which means he's playing Champions League, La Liga, and the Copa del Rey. He's playing all of those every season. Then he is the star and the heart of the Croatian national team. So he's playing all of the Euros, and obviously the last World Cup. So you're absolutely right. He personally hit a wall, and then the rest of the team couldn't cope without his controlling the game, basically. And yeah, you saw lots of mental errors. I mean, Argentina's second goal, that Alvarez run, it was just, my mind was blown. I was like,
right.
He just ran straight line. He took the ball from just behind half and he just dribbled it at the goal, and the defenders just kind of fell out of his way, and the ball bounced in front of him and he poked it in the net. And it was like one of those easiest goal he scored.
They're called like the dribble tackles, right? Where like he just kind of kept running and the defenders just like didn't do enough. They just kind of like thought it was going to be an easy tackle and they just kind of kicked at it and it just kind of bounced to him. And then the second defender just kind of, like, you watch it in slow motion and it's sad. He just kind of like falls over. And then it's just kind of like,
yes,
oh, I'm just going to rip it past the goalie. And all of a sudden you're like, did this guy really just run from the 18 to the 18 to score a goal? Like, is this that easy?
Like his teammate who came across, that was a good, yes, he did that.
Oh my gosh, number 10 is so fast.
He still just ran through 3 defenders, and it was like, what are you doing?
Right. Absolutely. I want to see. I figure out who the guy's name was. Not you, not Messi, not Paredes. It might have been I don't know. It might have been a sub, dude. Whoever 10 was that made that run, dude was just flying.
Messi is 10.
Not 10. Who was it?
It might have been 20. Alexis McAllister.
Maybe, I don't know. Whoever that guy was that made that run, he was absolutely hauling. I mean, literally just hauling up the field, and who drew those defenders. And I was just like, I thought they were going to play him the ball because he was gone. He was like, clearly, he was faster than everybody on the field. And they were just like, nope, he's going to go, he's going to go, he's going to go. And I'm so happy that we're seeing, like, prime Lionel Messi. Like, just brilliance, right? Just brilliance.
Prime Messi in tiny little slices. Because, people are talking about, obviously, that third goal, the run that he put on Guardiola, like, amazing. Footwork, great body control, great balance, all of those things. And, yeah, that was, that's Messi's ability on display in the spotlight right there. The reality is, years ago, he did that same thing like 6 times a game.
Right.
So he's only doing it 1 or 2 times a game now. That's where people are talking about just kind of the genius of him. He walks for 75% of the game.
Yeah, but when he wants to turn it on,
to put all of his effort into that one moment to get the goal,
he turns it on. And it's one of the things that separates players like Messi and Mbappe from the rest of the field right now is single coverage and double coverage. They don't work. Right? Every time Lionel Messi got the ball and there were like 2 guys near him, you just watched him like whoop whoop and just do this little flick with the ball at his foot. And both defenders always thought, and I thought at times watching it, he was going to get tackled. He doesn't even lose his balance. He just comes away with it, right? You saw Mbappe do the same thing, right? Just wait for guys to come in and then be like, yeah, bye, and just torch him. And I mean, when he turned Guardiola inside out, and there was nothing fancy. Watch the replay. He doesn't do step overs. Even when he turns his back and goes to go the other way, Guardiola's with him the whole time. He didn't really fall for it. Guardiola grabs his whole arm and yanks on him. And you can just see Messi's just focused and determined. He's like, yeah, I still got the ball right here. He lays the ball across the box. He knows exactly where it's going. And the guy just
still nutmegged him for the pass, too.
Right, and the guy just snaps it in the net. And it's like, I mean, I watched that thing, and he does it, and I literally just, like, put my hands up. Again, I watched with a bunch of friends, and I was just like, Messi is a monster. Like, dude is an absolute legend right now. 35 years old and still doing that kind of stuff. And that was something that not many teams in the tournament had, right? If at all, is this ability to have a player.
Only Argentina and France.
Where
actually Brazil.
I mean, Brazil had a couple guys, right? But in one-on-one coverage, you're doomed. Like, Messi knew, you could tell there were moments in the game where when Messi decided to go, it was because he had realized, I'm not going to get more than 2 defenders, and they're in trouble. Right? And when Mbappe would turn it on, it's because he's paying attention. He's like, you know what? They left me alone. Right? And for Americans, a lot of times it's like when the quarterback sees somebody in single coverage. They're like, oops, my number 1 target's in single coverage. I'm going to exploit it. And Messi just walked around and waited and waited and waited. And all of a sudden, here it is. He's getting ready for the third goal. And he's like, oh, I just got this guy to beat? Okay.
Well, I'll do that.
All right, I'm going to do that thing. And, like, I mean, just class. So now here we are looking at the final. We're looking at Argentina and France. I think up until the semifinal, I would have had France by a long shot, just in what I had seen.
I agree with that.
After watching Argentina against Croatia, I can understand Croatia was gassed at a time. Here is my my 2 cents. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think France is slightly better defensively. I still think Argentina has the attacking quality to figure it out. France's defensive midfield depth is able to pick up this pressure and maintain it. I think France's overall team structure is going to be better than Argentina's. I think France is going to win this game 2-1. I'm hoping that this is one of the closest games that we've seen because this is one of the few games that I'm going to watch where I feel like both teams could win. And I didn't feel that way. And I'm not saying that both teams didn't have a shot as the game progressed in previous matches, right? I didn't think Croatia had any right beating Brazil, and they did, okay? But when you thought about the games that you watched, I thought France and England, that was the first game I watched in the tournament where I was like, either one of these teams could win this game. Whereas when you watch Portugal play Switzerland, maybe that was one that was you're kind of like, I don't know. I had Switzerland. I was clearly mistaken. But when you watch England play Senegal, you're like, England's going to win, right? You watch Japan play Germany, you're like, Germany's going to win. They didn't, but you came into it with that mentality. This is one of the first games I'm watching where I'm like, you know what? I think France has the edge, but if they do, it's not by much. And I would love to watch Messi lift the World Cup for the sake that I just love Messi as a player and I love who he is and what he's done. And he's one of the few players that I can look at and say, I think you deserve everything.
I'm pretty much right there with you. Looking at, from the beginning of this tournament, obviously Argentina came in on a big high. They were 36 games unbeaten or something ridiculous like that. Lost Saudi Arabia. It kind of reset everything for them. If you look, they actually brought. There's a few guys, Julian Alvarez and Enzo Fernandez in particular, who they weren't starting in that first Saudi Arabia game. Then, they were controlling the game and key contributors in this last game. So, yeah, if we were coming from the beginning of the tournament and you told me it was going to be Argentina and France in the final, I would say, ooh, France has a pretty big edge there. But those players of Argentina have grown throughout the tournament. They have grown into a better team by this point in the tournament. It's as far as midfield is a pretty even match. I can't say one midfield is better than the other one. Their attacking strengths, one side has Messi, one side has Mbappe. Those are probably two of the top 3 players in the game right now, whatever order you want to put them in. And then the defense, you said France may be a little bit stronger, but are they? No.
Right. Neither defense is particularly mind blowing, right? I think both defenses are just sound. They both have good defense. They're both very balanced quality teams, right? I think Dembele for France gives them a little bit of an edge in the midfield, but not enough that you're just oh, France is going to get the midfield under control because of the way that he plays and because of the way France wants to progress through the midfield. Both teams seem to play similar tactics, right? They both don't mind being in possession, but they both kind of waiting and then playing on the break. They both have players that want to do that. We saw Argentina really dangerous on the counter. Obviously, France is insanely dangerous on the counter. And both teams have shown the ability to be second half teams, right? France scoring lots of their goals in the second half, getting up into the tournament. Argentina just never laying down and dying and continuing to get goals into the second half and continuing to fight for stuff. Their strategy being put the pedal to the metal, right? Both teams only have that one loss, right? France losing to Tunisia when they just said, we don't need to do this anymore. And Argentina being oops, we just came out flat. And if you think about it, you came out flat against a nation that was playing a home game, right? This Basically. World Cup, you can't forget the fact that this World Cup has meant so much to Arab culture and that entire area of the world, right?
That's why the crowd for that Morocco game was
wild.
This world.
Right. So, and Argentina has also had an equally huge showing. But when you watch the Saudi Arabia game and the Qatar game and the Iran game and the Morocco game, right? The fans were just so vibrant and so excited and so loud that they were basically playing a home game.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
and you know, it's going to be interesting to see what we see. But I'm excited for this game. I think it's going to be, you know, one of the better games that we've watched. And both scenarios have happened before. Spain has won a World Cup after losing their very first game, and Brazil has won back-to-back World Cups. So, you know, I think stats get thrown out the window for this one, right? The game has changed. This World Cup has been completely different than any World Cup that we've had, right? As far as refereeing, to pitch management, to culture, to all sorts of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
You know, this is a chance for the slates to get erased, right? I think Messi is going to play one of the best games he's ever played in his life, right?
Certainly hope so.
Because this is it, right? You know, and it takes that mental edge off, right? As an athlete, we've all had that moment where our brain tries to poke at us and say, hey, it's okay if you don't get it this time, though, because you'll get it next time, right?
Yeah.
You know, like
he knows he doesn't have a next time.
You know, when we were in high school running the 2 mile and you don't go out very well in the first mile, your brain is tired. It starts eating at you and saying like, hey, man, we should just conserve some energy. Like, you're going to run this race again next week. Like, who cares if you beat that guy, right? Messi doesn't have that now. This is like his brain's finally going like, it's okay. Like, go for it. Because you should enjoy this, right? This is it. And his teammates know that. And so now his teammates are riding with him, right? And France, as far as soccer culture, has come a long way. And not just because they won the World Cup, but because they were a disgrace in the World Cup before that, right? Literally the team walking out of camp and just telling their coach, we don't care. Showing up to training camps in their street clothes, hoping the coach was going to turn it around, and their coach was just too stubborn to do anything, and they wind up just getting knocked out of the group, tying South Africa, like, you know, a whole bunch of nonsense. But they recovered from that, and they've shown that, like, they are still a team. And they were honestly a team that I had getting knocked out by us in the quarterfinals, because I was like, yeah, I mean, they have Mbappe, but, like, a lot of their guys have played in a couple World Cups, and they're getting kind of old, right? Griezmann's getting older, Giroud's getting older, and Mbele's getting older, like, Ribio, like, Hugo Lloris is mad old. Like, these guys are good players, but they're, like, getting ready to go to the MLS good players, right? Like, it's time for some, and they're like, no, we're not. Like,
they've made themselves into a very good team.
Correct.
You know, obviously you see Mbappe as like the player, but when you look at the team as a whole, you can't point out any weaknesses. There's no glaring weaknesses in that team. Like, they play together and they play to their tactics and their system really well, and they're really effective.
They are. Well, consolation game obviously going to be Saturday between Morocco and Croatia. I got Morocco in that one. I know we didn't really talk about it, not really any need to. I just think Croatia's out of gas, and Morocco's got too much to play for. It's going to be a home game. I think Morocco could get that game 1 or 2-0. Who knows? Maybe it goes to penalty kicks. I hope not. I just don't need more of that drama. And then 10 a.m. on Sunday. So this is again one of those new weird times. Will be the final. The World Cup will kick off. France will play Argentina. Is Messi going to make history, or is France going to repeat history? We're going to find out on Sunday. We want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Extra Time. We will have our final World Cup closing thoughts after that is over. And as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave a comment, like this video, share it, subscribe, do all the stuff that you got to do. Everything helps us. We love talking to you. We want to hear from you guys. You guys take care, and we will see you guys next time.